Ronald Reagan once said, "The 7 worst words in the English language are, 'I'm from the government, and I'm here to help.'" Has anything changed since the 80s? Okay, everyone has heard about all the guns and guns and guns and guns in the news lately. There have been some horrible events that involved guns. Well, one of the government proposals to fix this problem is for a House bill for a 1,000% tax on assault weapons. Now, let's dig into this. There's some details here that are noteworthy. Representative Donald Beyer, a Virginia Democrat, is seeking to introduce a 1,000% tax on assault weapons through a reconciliation process that would not require any Republican votes. Now, this first sentence has a couple of interesting points. A 1,000% tax on assault weapons. Assault weapons, as a term, doesn't exist. Some people think they know what that means. Some people don't. All weapons can assault people. Do we have assault hammers? Okay, this whole line of thinking gets pretty boring if you've heard this argument more than once. Now he's looking for a reconciliation process. A reconciliation process is commonly referred to as a loophole. It's a process in government that would not require any Republican votes. Now, we have about 50% Republicans, about 50% Democrats. There's a little wiggle room, and the numbers go back and forth every couple of decades, and there's some independents and what have you. But saying we don't give a shit about what half of the country thinks is a very bold statement. The congressman said this bill is meant to discourage Americans from buying the deadly weapons that have been used in frequent mass shootings. Interesting framing. All weapons can be deadly. Literally, you can die from paper cuts if you get enough of them. So I will discredit that. In the past 3 weeks alone, shootings in New York, California, Texas, and Oklahoma has left dozens of adults and children dead. Absolute tragedy. No one disagrees with that. What it's intended to do is provide another creative pathway to actually make some sensible gun control happen. Beyer told Insider in an article published Sunday while discussing his proposal. Quote, "We think that a 1,000% fee on assault weapons is just the kind of restrictive measures that creates enough fiscal impact to qualify for reconciliation." Okay. We're going to get into a couple of these details later and how I have an opinion on how this may or may not work. A reconciliation, I talked about that a second ago. This is a tactic. Okay, interesting choice of words. It could be a procedure or a method, but no, it's a tactic that can allow laws to bypass the Senate's 60-vote requirement known as the filibuster. When you pass major legislation that can change the direction of the country right down to its core, you need to have a majority, sometimes an overwhelming majority, like if you want to change the Constitution, or you need to have a majority so you can really get the pulse of what the country feels about this. But they're going to bypass that. You can now pass this with a simple majority. Okay, Democrats used this strategy last year to approve a COVID-19 relief package and the House-approved Build Back Better bill. Some of you may have strong feelings about the COVID-19 relief package. That's where they printed up a couple of $1 billion and handed it out. Some would say that's partially responsible for the massive inflation we're seeing now. You know, like economists and accountants and CPAs and, anyone that's ever had a checkbook or a bank account. But that's fine. And the House-approved Build Back Better bill. I think that's where they canceled the Keystone Pipeline and stopped all the drilling for oil. You know, that stuff that you put in your car to make it go zoom zoom? Yeah. Have you noticed the price of that went up a little bit? No, it's fine. Don't worry. Listen, when they use this strategy or tactic to override the normal congressional and senatorial procedures to pass what they want, it never has a bad outcome. Don't worry, we'll be fine. One expert told Insider that Beyer's measure could meet the threshold of bypassing the filibuster because, quote, taxes get more deference in budget reconciliation than other policies from a parliamentarian point of view. So basically, they're going to lump this in as a tax instead of gun control. Loopholes, loopholes, loopholes. It's just congressional nonsense, and we're going to call one thing this thing and that thing the other thing. And so it's like that 3-card Monte game where they just shuffle stuff around so you can't see what's happening. And oh, by the way, now you got Obamacare. We got the gist of it, okay? He wants to put a $1,000 tax, 1,000%. I'm sorry, that was way off, a 1,000%. So this bill would only focus on assault weapons, such as AR-15s, but would not include a tax increase on bullets. However, any high-capacity magazines that can carry more than 10 rounds of ammunition would be aggressively targeted. I don't know if any of you have ever purchased an AR platform rifle. The standard magazine will hold 30 cartridges. That is not high capacity. That is standard. I guess I understand someone making an argument about a 50 or a 100 round drum. That would qualify as high capacity. A 30 round magazine is standard. That's what they come with. However, any high capacity magazines that can carry more than 10 rounds would be aggressively targeted. 10 rounds, I gotta tell you, let's put yourself in a scenario. You're getting beaten up in an alley. You've come out of a restaurant late at night. You got to take the back way home, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how you got yourself into this situation. 3 guys jump you. Oh, crap. It's go time. When you have that amount of adrenaline rushing through you, if you're limited to 10 bullets, you better be accurate. You better get a lot of training. Like cops. Cops get a lot of training with firearms. It is widely reported, that cops have an average of 30% on-target hit rate in the field. Because handguns, believe it or not, don't believe what you see in movies and TV, handguns, it takes a lot of training and precision to hit your target. In reality, I'm not talking to the super gun guys who spend 6 hours a day at the shooting range, but your average guy, your average woman who picks up a handgun and goes to the range a couple times a year, if you can put bullets on a target at 10 meters, good for you. If you can do it under stress at 10 meters, you're a goddamn hero. Shooting under stress with a handgun is hard and not accurate. Even the cops can't do it. So if you get mugged by 3 guys and you only have 10 bullets, it's about 50-50 odds. The AR-15 style guns can range in price from $500 to $1,000, meaning that a 1,000% tax increase would add $5,000 to $10,000 to their final sales price. The Democrat lawmaker said that he's open to negotiating that figure, however, but the goal is to drive down gun purchases and limit the number of assault weapons in circulation. Well, the number of weapons in circulation right now won't change. That doesn't even make any sense. The number of weapons that exist right now won't change. He doesn't want to add new ones. So that's just a logical fallacy. There's nothing magical about that 1,000% number. It's severe enough to actually inhibit and restrict sales, but also successful enough that it's not seen as an absolute ban. Oh, they'll get to that. Don't worry. All right. I'm going to take a break right here and stop reading this article. And we're going to talk about what I think. All right, what we're going to do, I'm going to leave the screen up with this guy's face so we can look at him while we discuss and talk about this new gun legislation. Will it increase the price of guns? Absolutely. A $500 gun will now cost $5,000. Will guns be harder to get? Yeah, absolutely. All right. Immediately, yes, guns will be harder to get. In the weeks before this law goes into effect, there will be a run on guns like the world has never seen. It will be the last chance for legal gun buyers to make that purchase. Prices will go through the roof as people get in line to buy whatever is left on the shelf. Will it affect illegal gun sales? No, of course not. They don't pay taxes. However, that's not entirely accurate. Is heroin, cocaine, fentanyl illegal? Oh, yes, absolutely. But thousands of pounds come across the border every day. Will the cartels switch to gun running if there's now buyers willing to pay? I think so. I think cartels will actually make more money selling guns. Government laws and regulations can't keep drugs out of prisons. Can you explain to me how this new set of laws will suddenly keep guns from crossing the border? Go on, I'll wait. Right now, there are background checks for almost all guns. There is no gun show loophole. The only time background checks are not completed is when a father hands down a family rifle to his son or daughter, or they're received through a will. Oh yeah, and illegal gun sales in back alleys. No background checks there. Okay, there's a couple other examples, but you get my point, right? So if guns are brought over the border by cartels, I am certain they won't be checking for previous criminal behavior. But I could be wrong. Get back to me when you have an answer about that one. Okay, aside from the cartels bringing guns illegally into the country, let's talk about who this law affects directly. Poor people. Now, the rich corporate elite, they'll still be able to buy guns at any price to keep themselves safe. Cops and military will be exempt. But what about the single mom living in a trailer park in West Virginia? How about the young family with 3 kids trying to start a small farm out in the middle of nowhere? Let's consider the young inner city woman who has just escaped a boyfriend who was a gangbanger and beat her night after night after night. They will not be able to afford the simple right to protect themselves. Buying a gun is just out of the question. This is a devastating tax on the poor. So cops will be exempt. They will be your only hope of protection. If you have an emergency, they will be sure to arrive in 15, 30 minutes, if you're lucky. The kids in Uvalde had to wait 77 minutes for someone to come save them. Are you willing to wait for them to come and save you while you're being mugged, raped, murdered? The cops will be your only hope. These are the same cops that were afraid to enter the school when they heard the shots, and they knew the kids were calling 911, begging for their lives. Okay, maybe different cops will arrive to save you. Maybe it'll be the same cops that arrested children for not wearing masks last year. Possibly the cops that shut down small restaurants, gyms, hair salons for not following the mandates. Grocery stores were allowed to be open, and certainly Walmart, but not your local bodegas? You want those cops who shut down those bodegas? You want them to be your only chance of protection? Will that make you feel safer when they're the only ones who are allowed to own guns? Do you trust the government? Honestly, take a minute and think. Do you think they're out for your best interest? Wouldn't it be nice if we could just have the same type of guns that the government forced us to buy for the Taliban? We left millions of dollars of military gear in Afghanistan when we retreated in the middle of the night. Perhaps we could just get a sample of the guns that Obama's administration bought for the Mexican drug cartels during the Fast and Furious operation. We certainly sent a few $1 billion worth of weapons to Ukraine recently. Do they deserve to be protected more than we do? These are all very serious questions. Why do they want to do this to us? And don't be fooled. They are trying to do this, just like Canada is. This will do nothing to help with the tragic school shootings. It is entirely possible it'll make them worse. It will make inner cities far worse. Virtually no one will be able to protect themselves. Isn't it curious that they don't keep records of how many times a gun was used to prevent a crime? Sometimes just showing a pistol will get you out of a tough spot. Also, you're starting to see signs. Signs in front of buildings and restaurants and stores. It says, quote, "This property is protected by armed personnel, and we will respond with deadly force if necessary." End quote. Now, just for a moment, pretend you're a criminal looking for a target, and you see that sign. And then you see a sign that claims this is a gun-free zone. You know where I'm going. But which is the softer target? If you were a criminal or a junkie looking for some quick cash for your next fix, where would you go? Now imagine the whole country has a gun-free zone sign. It'll be easy pickings for anyone bigger or stronger than you. So this bill is actually against women and poor people. Guns give women a fair chance. It's their only chance. Why do they want to take that away from you? I can't be more serious about this issue. The Second Amendment is a core tenet of what makes this country what it is. If the government are the only ones that have power over people, if you think the lockdowns 2 years ago were bad, you haven't seen anything. Government tyranny is real. It's happened in almost every country around the globe. The reason it hasn't happened here is because we have a well-armed militia. Those are just regular guys standing up for what's right. Don't let them take that away from you.